Hey everybody, welcome to House Calls, the podcast. Hey Matt, how you doing?
Hi Ty, I'm good. How are you?
Good. So tonight we are interviewing Klever, Klever, who can be found at on Instagram at Klever at Klever XJR. And Klever is an artist. So this is the beginning of our summer artist series. And we are really branching out having an artist because I don't think either you or I are artists.
No, we're not. But, we are Renaissance men.
So the way I see it is we are swimming in the deep end, but we're taking a boogie board with us for safety because he is a lacrosse artist.
Yeah.
So we have that safety net.
That's smart.
But I did want to mention, because we have basically, because it's spring going into summer, you're in Baltimore, I'm in Annapolis. We have had a lot of people lacrosse kind of based. And for those people who may be not into lacrosse, I still think there's a lot in those episodes. So we know of Klever through TJ Malone. And I was thinking about that interview. And one of my takeaways was he's working 15-hour days as a hedge fund guy. And he loves it because he loves what he's doing. He loves the team he's with. And I'm like, that's sometimes the takeaway message. So yes, we talked about lacrosse, but it's some of the underlying messages that you get from these podcasts.
Absolutely. And the same thing with anybody we've talked to. Allison last week talking about triathlons. I don't think many of our listeners are going to go out there and try to do a triathlon, but I think the underlying story, the dedication, the passion, and the time and effort that all these people put into their passions. And I think that's the takeaway. So
it's not necessarily about what they do. It's about their passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And how they do it and the communities they build around them.
And then this will also be our first one where it's kind of like 2 degrees of separation, meaning that we met TJ through Jack and we're meeting Klever through TJ. So it's pretty cool.
We've had authors. Now we've got artists. I mean, we are true Renaissance men. Yeah. I'm so proud of us.
And it's a long way from that first podcast where I interviewed you and the second one where I interviewed my daughter.
True. But no one else has taken their shirt off yet. So anyhow, this is going to be good. I'm excited. And the fun thing is that neither one of us know Klever. So we'll both learn as we go.
While you're listening, check him out on Instagram. It's pretty cool.
Yep. And so please like, subscribe, comment, share. And if you have ideas about who we should be talking to, please let us know.
Business thing, the big thing of autographs I had to sign. I gave them to Mary Kate. She's mailing them to you.
Okay, good. Okay. The way we found this is during our talk with TJ, we noticed a picture behind him, and it's a pretty neat story about how TJ and Klever met. And take a listen and enjoy the episode.
And then obviously that led you to lacrosse, that you have such a passion that even your apartment is decorated with that lacrosse picture behind you.
Yeah, so this is actually a funny story behind this. This is my first real big purchase. I don't consider myself an art guy at all, but this is kind of my first big art purchase. I met this guy, Native American, that I met in New York City. So I was doing my internship in investment banking, and below my building, there was a smoothie shop. And I walk in, and there's this guy wearing a Thompson lacrosse shirt with a long ponytail, similar to how the Thompsons have. And so I naturally just start talking to him and say, "Hey, obviously you know about lacrosse. Do you happen to be are you related to the Thompsons at all?" He goes, "No, but I'm Native and I play lacrosse all the time." And so I got in touch with him. We met up and we played a bunch of wall ball together in the city. Turns out he's a great artist and he makes a bunch of lacrosse art. You can follow him on Instagram his name is Klever, and he makes a bunch of great lacrosse art. And this is one of his big portraits. And so at the end of my internship,
cool.
I bought the painting as part of my celebratory return offer at the end of the summer, just something to kind of remember the summer and remember my relationship with Klever. And I've always been very interested in the native aspect and this kind of spiritual roots of lacrosse. And that kind of always has meant a lot to me, meeting him and staying connected with him throughout the years.
Welcome to a whole new episode of House Calls, the podcast. Tonight, Ty and I are talking to Klever. Klever's an artist, and we've got to meet him through our friend TJ Malone. And that's an interesting story in and of itself. But we'll get to that. But Klever, welcome, and thanks for sharing some time with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I've never done a podcast before, but I like to just keep it raw in the moment here.
Yeah. So Ty and I have also had this issue where we keep cutting each other off. So we're trying to learn that as well. So Klever, introduce yourself. Where are you? Where are you from? What you got going on?
So my name's Klever. I am currently in New York, Westchester to be exact. Yeah, I'm here right now. I just got out of teaching a cooking class. So
all right.
Where did you originally grow up?
I'm born and raised in New York.
Okay.
My parents are both from Ecuador.
Okay.
And so they came here in the 90s, and then they had my sister out in Ecuador, and then me and my brother here in New York. Excellent. White Plains to be exact.
Very
and then
cool.
when did all these different passions start? Like, I just want to get a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah. So I basically just grew up in like a suburban neighborhood. When you're around, especially like when in White Plains, is a lot of diversity. It's just kind of like a melting pot, especially being so close to New York City. It's about a 45-minute drive away from the city. You're kind of exposed to everything, really. There's kids that do, like for me, I do art and sports and all these kinds of stuff. And people do a lot of things here in my town, whether it be like skateboarding or like fashion. And, so I kind of had to, growing up, I saw a lot of opportunity. So I can now see from hindsight that I waited until it came to me rather than me coming to it. So for instance, at a young age, I started playing soccer, and I did that for quite a while. And all of a sudden, I changed up. I started doing music, and I started playing drums, and got really passionate about music. And sort of, I wouldn't call myself a musician. I'd say I get caught up into sounds, but whether it be like a guitar or whatever, And so, transitioning from drumming, I started doing wrestling for a bit.
Was that in high school?
Yeah, in high school.
Okay.
So in White Plains. So I was doing that, and around that moment, it was a very pinnacle moment in my life, because when you're battling against an opponent, if you win, it's your fault. If you lose, it's your fault. And the amount of hours that you've taken to prepare during the weeks and the months to come is really all on you. So you're the one to blame if you win at the end of it, if your hand is raised, or if you lose and you kind of gotta start from scratch all over again. And being there really opened up my eyes as to like what the human body can do and what is possible, because it's so literal, because you literally just lose. I would take it as if like I used to watch documentaries on wrestling, Iowa wrestling. I'm a big fan of them.
Dan Gable.
Yeah, exactly. Dan Gable. And so one of the coaches says, when you live, lose, you die. And it was at that moment, everything kind of just started clicking. I was never really into art. It kind of just came to me. And so I believe that as a man, you need to have the whole trinity. And for me, that is, having, like, for instance, you can go to the gym, and then, us guys, we do that and we take care of our health. But then some guys won't go out to like a museum or do poetry or like be in touch with them, with their feelings. I started realizing that after the fact in high school. Socrates was a phenomenal wrestler, but he also did poetry. So I kind of saw that out into, what do I want? I have all these feelings, I have all these emotions. I need to translate it into something, whether it be drumming or art. So as I was progressing in my wrestling career, I actually wanted to go to Iowa. That was a big dream of mine. I think around senior year of high school, things are starting to cool down. You got the senior fever, whatever they call it, and classes are a lot lighter. Everything's just kind of winding down, and that's when I just started letting loose and kind of exploring art. And it just started in a form of just pens with my friend Jacob Shannon. He introduced me to like a micron pen. I had no idea what that was at all. And he said, yeah, my mother's a graphic designer, this, that, and the other. You want to borrow the pencil or the pen? I said, yeah, 100%. And I just didn't know what it was. And I was doodling with it.
Did you draw at
eventually,
all when you were younger? Like when you were real little, or like was this like your first exposure to drawing?
this was more or less my first exposure.
Okay.
Obviously, when you're a kid, you have like art class and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first like real opening to art.
Okay.
You've done a couple of things already that have impressed me, and one made me mad. Number one is that you said about Socrates being a great wrestler and a poet. Ty was a decent wrestler in high school, and he likes to write. So now he's going to start comparing himself to Socrates. So I'm not real excited about having to deal with that ego. You've really made my life a living hell. But you did mention, which I thought was fascinating, the Trinity. Everyone has, men have this Trinity, or people have this Trinity. What specifically do you mean by that? You talked about the art,
Art,
physical,
being in tune with your feelings,
I was just
and
with
just
the third.
having like your spiritual health
Got it. Okay.
intact, really.
Yep.
Whether to each their own, whether it be prayer, meditation, going to church, finding that, that core
Peace. Yep.
foundation. When I'm alone, I try, there's times where I am alone and I enjoy the feeling, and I kind of, let everything, all my distractions just be gone.
Yep.
So that I can focus on what I need to do. It's fascinating what happens when you have no sensory input for 15, even 20 minutes. Like when you really want to find an answer, you just spend time alone in spirituality, finding God, praying. That has transformed my life ultimately. So that's the Trinity too, and even in when it's relating to religion, it's like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's the Trinity. Right. So, it's important for me as a man to uphold all of them, because there's always, like one, there's a guy that's like really into spiritual health, but, he just doesn't go to the gym. He doesn't go after it. Like you're not a full, I don't want to say like you're a third of a man, but, there's still some things that you have to, tackle and to become, like for me.
I'm with you. And I think, you're spot on. I just was curious what your Trinity was. And like you said, it's different for everybody.
And I'm wondering, did you discover this as a young man? Was some of this maybe passed down from parents and grandparents?
My father, he taught me a lot. Really, he's a very stoic man. Anytime that I had, when I was younger, when we had time, he would always just kind of, tell me a story about like a turtle, about perseverance, or about always telling the truth, stuff like that. I can be stoic sometimes, but I also have a very outward personality. So, seeing him as very stoic, I kind of ebb and flow within that, and like what I wanted to become and what I wanted to do. As the years progressed, I kept all the stuff that he's told me, in mind, and that's helped out phenomenally.
Do you meditate or pray every day? Like, is it a routine, or has it just become a part of your life?
It's almost every day. It just depends on the schedules. If I'm just being honest, I try to make it a routine. Every Tuesdays I have church before I eat. If I'm with friends, I always like to just say a prayer over our food. The chemical makeup of water changes when you talk to it. There's a fascinating study. This Japanese scientist froze water into like separate cups. One, he spoke really bad, malicious things into it. And then the other, he spoke love and gratefulness into it. And he froze both of them. And when he saw it, when they were both frozen under the microscope, the one he talked with love and gratitude, it looked like a snowflake, like perfect, nice geometry. And then the one that he spoke very maliciously and evil stuff, it kind of looked like a desolate, like how Mars would look like, very desolate.
Yeah.
And very kind of ugly.
So I literally just read a book called Whole Body Prayer, and the guy's name he's a Chinese healer. It's a Chinese name, and they quoted that study. Yeah. I just finished the book 2 days ago. So I just read that study. It was quoted 2 days ago. That's amazing.
What's the book called?
It's called Whole Body Prayer.
Whole Body Prayer.
And I'll look at my phone and get the author. So as you start art, you didn't stop doing the sports stuff.
Yes and no. I was always interested in just the abrasiveness of sports and how much dedication one player athlete can put into like a game or a routine or his team or whatever it is. And I translated that into my art career. So it's never really left me, but I left it, but I rather came back to it. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty fascinating, in your life journey that we're only up to high school, soccer, music, wrestling. It's you go all in, and you don't doesn't mean you stay in that lane either, right? You move in and out as your interest and your move with you. You guys
So
there?
I'll keep going while he frozen.
Yeah.
So he's impressed that you're doing all these things. So then
Freeze?
as you start doing art, did you know that you had a talent for it? Like, did you pick up pretty quickly that you were good at it?
I think I didn't recognize that it was a talent. I kind of just I can be very focused on one thing at a time. And I didn't really recognize it or see it as a talent. I kind of just saw it as a way to express myself. And if I have some time and I don't want to be on my phone, I don't want to stare at a screen, like people chop wood or read books, go for a run. There's many different ways to get into a flow state. And so I started recognizing that I would become into a flow state when I was drawing or doodling, whatever it is. And I love being into a flow state. So I just recognized that. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing this. And so I think the talent kind of just, it wasn't there. It's just like the work and the feeling that I felt just kind of, when you're spending hours on something, you just inevitably get good at it.
So we've talked to a lot of different guests about the flow state, and some people get it from running, like you said. Some people get it from yoga. Some people get it from work. You're getting it from art. Do you get it from other things?
Oh yeah, 100%. I get it. I try to enter a flow state as much as I can. I feel like it can be a little bit unhealthy sometimes, but it's with everything. Like this winter, I've gone on many runs. I like running in the cold and the snow. It's just, I love it. I would never take my phone. I don't listen to music when I work out. I don't, I don't have earpods. I've never owned AirPods. I'm very just basic. I like the idea of just having to just be in my own presence. I don't want to have any like external influence that goes along with like pre-workout and stuff like that. Sometimes I take it though, here and there, but very rarely. So the flow state comes with, I think everything I do, I try to create a flow state out of it, whether it be like a high pressure situation, whether it be something very low pressure, making music, going on a run, chopping wood, and even in wrestling and drumming and stuff like that. Like, I think I find myself wanting to create the flow state. And sometimes it takes a couple of seconds, sometimes it takes minutes or even hours. It just depends on what I'm doing that day exactly.
And then as you're doing all this stuff, has art become your full-time, like, is that would you say that's your occupation now, or how do you spend your days?
Yeah, so last year, or I would say rather more on 2023, I would say 2020 to about 2023, that was just only art, really. I was teaching people how to paint. I was a paint instructor for about 2 years in New York City. Yeah, so art was kind of my occupation, but now I kind of step back a little bit. When there's so many commissions coming at you, and it has to be perfect, or it has to be look a certain way, or it feels like it's work, and I enjoy that. I love that. But at the same time, I don't want the stress of like my mind to reflect onto my paintings. Yeah. So that's why I just took a step back.
Okay.
For now.
We've got a question that was just called into our producer's office. Yeah. So his name is T. Malone from New York City, and he would like to know more about your tattooing skills.
Yeah. So I've been tattooing professionally in 2015. The only real people that have come by into the studio are like collectors, people who are serious about, what they want specifically. What I wanted to become in the tattooing realm is to be like just the one niche. It's like I liked black and gray, fine lined, realistic tattoos that kind of look almost like illustrative.
Okay.
So that's where I kind of had my own niche. Like, when people sometimes say like stay in your lane, that's where my lane was.
So are you based in an art studio? So you would be doing your painting there, your painting would be up there, but also if somebody came in and requested a tattoo, you would do that also? I have so
Yeah.
many I have so many questions because the pressure of working on a human canvas versus a regular canvas, I'm fascinated by the whole
Oh
thing.
yeah, without a doubt. I mean, art is there's so much different ways and avenues to go down in art. I believe I always used to say that when I started painting, like I like painting because my canvas doesn't have an opinion and my canvas doesn't say ouch, you know? And so it's when you're dealing with something so permanent, or actually, yeah, is permanent, you kind of have this high pressure situation where it's like you're meeting someone, maybe they just came in to the studio the day of, maybe they're going to France the next day, and you know they want this very special piece for their mother or whatever, maybe even New York City, and you kind of have to like meet that halfway, and if not above and beyond. But when you're making, you know, such permanent art on someone, you have to, everything just has to be in check, like your mind, your confidence, your ability, and even your rapport. With tattooing, it's really interesting because you can't really practice. You're kind of just, because it's, you're practicing on people or even like on fake skin, but that's not really ever gonna feel like the real deal. So yeah, it can be very high pressure, but I thrive in that, honestly.
And then on your Instagram, I saw you had a lot of lacrosse artwork. So how did you fall into the lacrosse world?
I mean, like watching lacrosse is absolutely beautiful. Me and my brother play right now. We just play like he plays a lot more than I do. I try to pick up the stick as much as I can. We've played sixes, we played box, we played field, played with professionals too. And the way that I got introduced with lacrosse and art, well, I'll say lacrosse is through the indigenous side. Really, I saw this film called it's called Spirit Game, Pride of a Nation.
Okay.
You guys should check that out.
Yeah.
It's, I believe you can find it on Peacock, and it's very profound, and that really opened up my eyes to the game of lacrosse and playing for the creator. Just having, even me, I have native blood inside of me through my father. Although he is from Ecuador, we are native.
Okay.
And I don't like to like fully embrace my indigenous side because I have my mother, she's a mestizo, which means that she's mixed, and so there's like a ebb and flow because I'm also American, and you know it's kind of this whole culture thing, and I love it too because then I can grab things from everywhere from
Right.
here. Be like this, oh, I have long hair too, you know, or I was born in New York, or I also speak Spanish, you know, I have cousins in Italy, you know. It's when you're at this generation, there's a lot of mixed people, so it's,
Yeah.
I love it, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So you're kind of the world.
Yeah, I would say so.
Did you start playing lacrosse young or was it after the wrestling?
This was after wrestling.
Okay.
And as far as art came, I always liked, like, I wanted to, when you want to get good at something, you kind of, I would sometimes shy away from that. Like, for instance, like in tattooing, I like hated doing roses. You know, when you're young, you kind of like, I don't want to do like something so feminine and, you know, whatever it is. But, you know, I was like, I have to get good at it. Like, there's people constantly asking and asking. I was like, I got to get good at it. And then I just got real good at it, and all of a sudden, you know, it's like, for me, I wasn't really good at lacrosse when I started, but I was like, I want to get good, whether it be like a low to high shot or whether it's just like getting really good at a wall ball, whatever the case is. You know, I really wanted to get good at it, and part of it was just seeing the game played live, you know, seeing like the greats play, like Paul Rabel, Lyle Thompson, all these people, just seeing them in person is completely different.
Sure.
You know, you see it, it's literally art, how I saw it, because I'm seeing things through my art lens. And I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. That's like, I want to see that, you know, on Instagram or YouTube later. And I would see it and I'd be like, oh, I went to that game. I want to replay this. And I would start seeing it and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Like how much like tenacity, abrasiveness, how much grittiness, like the play making, it's like it grabs your heart so much that you can't, for me, it's so hard for me to not get influenced by that. And so I remember I was like, I really just want to do a lacrosse player. And so I was just trying to find a player and, seeing like a step down shot from like Miles Jones or like on the run shot from Paul Rabel. I was like, I need to like just get that and just start kind of just drawing it. I remember one time I was in the gym and I just had my notebook, like the first sketches where everything just kind of seems like it's just all this sort of anatomical sort of, not like, how Da Vinci or some of the, I guess, figure, Da Vinci and also some figure artists, like figure drawings, like you can kind of see like, oh, here's part of the head and here's the chest and then like the abs are here. I really like the anatomy of it. And so it just kind of just came together because I just loved art. I loved seeing the game of lacrosse, and then seeing it in person would just took it up a whole like 10 notches.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I just want to do this. It looks cool. Like, because, people do like people dancing, or there's even sports artists, I'm not the first one at all.
Yeah.
And I just saw the opportunity and I didn't really think anything of it. It's just like, I love art. I like playing it with my brother. Like, this is awesome. And then it just started getting like a big canvas. I did one time, and I think it was Paul Rabel's on the run shot sometime in the MLL.
Uh-huh.
And I just did it, and it was just hanging up for, I guess, about a year and a half. And I never really posted it. And then one day I'll take it, took the photo, and I just posted on Instagram and of different pieces of art that I did. And I was like, well, this is literally Paul Rabel's, inspired by him. It is him, but it's all like anatomically different. Like there's blues, there's hues. You can kind of see that it's a person. It's very abrasive and sort of abstract expressionist. I just tagged him and he saw it and he's like, wow, I love this. And then just started following me.
I am a orthopedic surgeon, so I treat a lot of athletes. And one of the things that Matt and I talk about a lot on this podcast is basically people kind of staying active as they get older. And what I think is interesting about your story is that you started playing lacrosse at an age when a lot of people are done playing lacrosse. So a lot of people start playing, whether it's lacrosse, soccer, basketball, they start playing at 6 and then they play through senior year of high school. And if they don't go to college to play lacrosse, to play the sport, sometimes they're done that sport. And there's plenty of people who start lacrosse or basketball or soccer after high school. And it's a great way to stay active. And you're the perfect example of that, where you just said, I love it, I'm going to start playing. And it's an example that you don't have to be a little kid playing Little League to play sports. Sports are for people of all ages. And there's men's leagues. I mean, there's people playing lacrosse up until they're 60, even older, in certain non-contact leagues and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to stay active, and there's people that live and are mobile and that can stand up at 90 and can do things and still go to the gym, and they look great because they just kept that up.
Yeah.
And for me, I just being active, I just like the thrill and being around people who like that same thrill.
So with your art, is it mostly drawing? Is it painting?
It's really everything. I mean, I can go down the list. It's like oil painting, acrylic painting, watercolor, illustrations, like drawing with charcoal, tattooing. I don't try to like force it. So for instance, I really loved the idea of playing guitar, and I knew that eventually I would play it, but when the time came. So I don't know, it must have been around COVID time. I sold my drum set to get a nice flamenco style guitar. I didn't know a lick of guitar at all. But when it came to me, I was really happy because it's like, okay, I'd rather not force it. I know when the time comes, when I'm at this age or whatever, or I'm at a friend's house and he has a guitar, then that's when I see it like, okay, I see that my life path has put me onto here. And it's up to me whether or not I take the opportunity to do so.
Okay. So if you've noticed, we've lost Matt. I think he just texted me. He's having internet problems in his neighborhood, but we'll keep going because this is great. So how do you choose what to draw? Like, does it come to you, or do sometimes people say, hey, can you do this project for me?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Wow, how do I choose?
Like, is it
I think
ever
it's
like somebody says, my dad's birthday is coming up. My dad was a wrestler. Will you draw some wrestling stuff? Or
oh yeah,
not like that at
definitely.
all? It's you have an inspiration and you start drawing.
Yeah, well, I also like, now that you remind me, I also like the back and forth with someone. You know, someone's really passionate about what you just said. You know, their father was a wrestler, and I can feel it. I could, it's obviously the truth. It's in their heart, and they want a piece of it. I like this. I like the back and forth. I like the collaborative aspect of it, and like my expression can be fully let out when I can hear someone's story, or whether it's any kind of story, whether it's commission based, or even they just inspired me that day. They probably don't know that, but it's like, wow, I want to do something for that person. And even more so, if it's commissioning me to do something, it's like, wow, I want to uphold this feeling that you have, and you kind of like given me trust, and now I want to um, uphold that as high as I can, because I like socializing, I like talking to people, I like all that stuff. And so when they have an idea, I can make that idea tangible, and I can make it so tangible that it's like I try to make it better than what you thought it was. So my confidence starts, and with that, and with my confidence starting there, my inspiration starts there.
And then how did the cooking start?
Oh, that's I guess when you're in a relationship, you want to do things for people, or if you're with friends, you want to do something for someone. And you know, um, just me being with my girlfriend, she's an amazing cook. She bakes just amazing, great things, and I'm like, wow, I kind of want to learn how to make a steak because I've never done that. And she's showing me. We're just back and forth because I love her, so whatever she loves, I kind of just naturally gravitate towards that. And so, I eventually want to be a father. And I think that it's important for me to take the steps necessary to not just want kids, but to actually be a father. So obviously there's a difference. So when I'm teaching kids, I can kind of have a bit of that taste. Obviously, that's completely different than being an actual father. But when you're doing like the practice and the baby steps and being around kids, and I also coach lacrosse as well. And so being around kids, second grade, first grade, sixth grade, I kind of have that little bit of practice before it happens.
Yeah.
I know what to say. Maybe if a kid, really likes me, or if he freaks out, or if there's a kid crying, like, how can I help this kid out? How can I be a good role model? What things have I learned in my life that I can tell them and bestow onto them so that, they can feel better about themselves, or, give them an analogy. That even happened yesterday with one of my kids.
Uh-huh. So with you're coaching lacrosse, what age group are you coaching?
Second and sixth grade.
Okay. And then what age group are the cooking kids?
Oh, they're anywhere from kindergarten to fifth grade.
Okay. And are you coaching any or teaching any music or any art?
No.
Okay. When you're doing the cooking, because you're an artist, is there a different vibe to it, like more of an artistic vibe, or is cooking totally separate from art? Because I'm not a cook and I'm not an artist.
There's some elements to it. I guess when I used to teach painting classes in New York City, you kind of have to, read the room, be polite, bring in the excitement, ask questions, even sometimes have a story to tell. So in that aspect, I kind of become creative, where it's like, oh, I'm teaching people how to paint. This is already creative. There's another element of creativity where you have to be funny, you have to be, witty. You don't have to be, but I enjoy making a class very memorable. If they're there for 2 hours and they really want to make a good piece and they paid money, I want to uphold that. I want to talk to everyone in the room. If they need help, like, I want to be that person. So that is a creative element on top of the already creative element. So in a sense where I teach the class, there is a bit of creativity with the cooking. It can get a little bit hectic because, you're dealing with like flour, all sorts of ingredients, things kind of get messy, and, you want to taste something, or, so it does. There's some elements that correspond with each other in the two, but I see it just slightly a little different.
Okay. And then you have all these different facets of you. What is your vision like down the road? Like, where do you see yourself as an artist? Where do you see yourself as an athlete? Most importantly, where do you see yourself spiritually?
Right. Wow. That's a
I know
really
we're
great
getting
question.
deep.
We'll start with art. I believe that if everything is stable in my life and my family's in check, I can kind of become the artist that I can truly, fully embody. If it was up to me, and I would just be painting real big canvases,
Uh,
not all day, but I have so many ideas that they're still in my head. I don't let it bother me, but I know that when it comes, I'll be ready. Like, I really like the idea of having like a school for like art therapy and involving kids, involving, the youth to come and to see it in a different light, in a different way. And, things can't always be, strict at school. It doesn't have to be like that. And additionally, I want to do more like sports art. I love the UFC, like PLL. Basically, no sport is off limits.
what sports have you worked on recently? I've seen your lacrosse stuff. I haven't seen any UFC or wrestling stuff.
That's kind of just in the works.
Okay.
I've done some stuff for the MLB,
Okay.
the NFL, and the NHL.
Fitness wise, what are you doing, and maybe what are some of your goals, or do you take it day to day?
Yeah, I just take it day to day.
Uh-huh.
It just comes with the seasons, really. I
Uh-huh.
see, if I really need to get in check and have my stamina ready, my strength ready. I do things more so for mobility and for opportunity. Or my friend Ian, he asked me like, "Why are you coming to the gym?" I don't know exactly how I said it. It was really nice, but say for instance, if someone needs help or there's a fire and you got to run or pick something up, like, are you ready? If there's trouble happening, I want to be capable of running or picking something heavy, or I do that to kind of like protect others.
Yeah. I've definitely had times where people have asked me, "What are you training for?" And I'm like, "I'm just training for life."
Yep,
I
exactly.
want to live. So, Matt, are you back with us?
I am. I took a little break, took a little
Okay.
nap. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Holy cow.
So
That was
then
not fun.
with Clever
So
with
wait,
the
back to what I was asking. So now you're out of fifth grade. Can we just rewind 20 minutes? I'm teasing.
were
Yep.
you able to hear any of us? Any of that?
Zero.
Okay. So we just to quickly review, he we went through the artwork, we went through his fitness, and I was just about to ask about spirituality.
Okay.
Basically, what does that look like in your life as far as like your quiet time, and also like, are you reading books, are you listening to podcasts, things like that?
Yeah. So right now I have like my week. I try. Well, obviously, in a perfect world, if I'm out of work on time and all this stuff, I like to have my week, like I'd said before. Like Tuesdays, I have men's ministry where there's a group of men where we talk and study about the Bible and just have our times, our questions together, and talk about spirituality. Fridays, I have young adults where people my age, I can interact with people my age or even younger. And then Sundays is just like for the whole family. I try my hardest not to miss that ever. And so as far as like my spirituality, it just depends on the seasons and, what I go through and what I ask for through with life. For instance, like last season, like in the wintertime, I've gone through a bit of suffering, but I've learned that that I'm trying to like the suffering. I try to rejoice in it because I know that it'll make me a better, stronger man. Fitness is the same thing. Like if you want to grow, big biceps, like you have to tear the muscle fibers so that it can grow bigger. So I try to keep it real simple where it's just like if I'm going through something, if there's pain, if there's suffering, if there's like traumatic experiences or heartbreak, I like to translate that to like, okay, this is going to make me feel so much better after I'm done and I've done the work. Because people say there's like a downward spiral, but you could also have an upward spiral. It's
Sure.
just how you interact and how you react to that.
So when you have the suffering, you obviously rely on your spirituality, but does the art help you? Do you reflect the suffering in your art, and does the fitness help you? What are your tools?
I try to keep the art away from it, but there's definitely times where I'm like, wow, I feel a lot of feelings and I want to express it on like a big piece of canvas. And it just, when I'm there alone, that's where I listen to music, and I try to like get everything like the room nice and clean, like everything out, just kind of like mise en place, and everything's just kind of ready, and I'm ready to attack.
I guess with suffering, what are your tools to help you through suffering beyond spirituality? Kind of like you said, you don't get your art involved in it. So what are your do?
Right. So what I do, I love to run.
Okay.
I said that earlier, and being away from devices, being away from vices, sometimes even friends and even music. I try to detox all of that out. If I'm going through something, I like to internalize it myself or write it down, have a plan how I'm going to tackle it. Last season I got real sick. I have to just drink tea, just water, soup, and you're kind of like, your body goes to like a natural state where it's like not survival, but it's just primitive. It's like only the necessities. So ginger shots are really, really good for you. We should be taking them daily, or if not a weekly, if that. But when you're sick, you're kind of like, oh, I need ginger, I need turmeric, I need B12, I need this and that. But it's just like, you kind of like, why would you have that mentality when you're sick? You should have it like all the time. So when you are sick, you kind of just focus on like the necessities, what you really, really need. And you cut out on everything. You don't want to look at the TV. You don't want to like be on social media. You're kind of just like away from all of that. Done. So that's my tool, is just to kind of be away. Yeah.
Would you say you're a pretty outdoorsy person as far as like nature? Just wondering if that inspires your art. I saw one of your pictures where it was a Native American maybe hunting on your Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Are you pretty outdoorsy, and does that inspire you?
Yes and no, because I am in, suburban New York. But when I was out in California, I'd love a new place to find a sunset. That was kind of just me and my girlfriend's thing. So when I'm out there, it's just like, okay, this new spot, this new beach, this new mountaintop, this new whatever, in that sense, where I'm like kind of away from suburbia and stuff. I love the outdoors.
Yeah. How did you meet TJ? Because that's how we met you. So what's the story there?
Oh yeah, okay. I actually heard his story. I'll tell my side now.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's basically the same, but I there was some stuff prior and then after. So I remember I was in the Upper East Side. I really liked these acai bowls from Juice Generation. I think on 57th or something like that. And I always go there, and it was really, really hot. So I got the acai bowl, but I didn't get like a water. I kind of just got the bowl. And then I went to the piers. I skated out over there. I ate it, had, whatever. And then I went back.
When you mean skated, you mean on a skateboard?
Yeah, skateboard.
Okay,
yeah.
This is an epic New York story. I love this. Okay,
yeah.
Keep going.
So I got the acai bowl. I skated to the piers to eat it just alone. And I was like, wow, I really want this specific drink from that place. It's like a chlorophyll, like salt, lime, just a kind of nice quenchy water.
Yeah.
It's like water, but like nice and quenchy. So I could have easily just went to the 7-Eleven right down the street by the piers, but I was like, no, I'm going to go back. So something was telling me just to go back. I was like, I'm just going to do it. So I skated all the way back from the piers, got there. At that time I was, it was really hot. So I was skating shirtless. I was like, kind of don't want to put the shirt on. It's like scorching hot. It's really sweaty, but I'm just going to put it on. So I put it on, and it's like a lacrosse t-shirt that I had on. And the moment that I walked in, I knew, like clairvoyantly, like almost as if God was talking to me, like there is a lacrosse player here.
Holy cow.
Like that is just the truth. And I knew that there was a lacrosse player. There was maybe, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 7 people there. I mean, TJ was there, but they were all just talking, and I just knew it. I felt it and I sensed it. And then as I walked by, I got the drink, I paid for it. And as I'm walking out, someone stops me, and it's TJ. And I already knew that it was about lacrosse. Like immediately, I already knew. And it's like, hey, do you play? Or like, I forget what he said exactly. or he's like, do you play on I forget exactly, but we started talking about lacrosse. And then, I was like, yeah, there's like a wall ball spot, that I go to on 63rd. I'm like going there right now if you want to meet up next week or something. Like, he's like, really? Like, where's the spot? I was like, apparently he lived like, I don't know, like 5 blocks away from there, and he had no idea. And I was like, yeah, just, we'll go there next week or something. Like, I'll get your number or something. And then, but we got Instagram instead. And then I was like, yeah, it was just about kind of wall ball. And he saw the art and the lacrosse art, because, that's just what I do. And he's like, whoa, you did all this? I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, that's awesome. And then I was like, yeah, like where did you play? He's like, no, I still play. And I was like, sweet, man. Like, where do you play? He's like, Penn State. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely about to hang out with you. And he's like, yeah, like my name's TJ Malone. Like the way that whole interaction happened, I knew that it was just God like bringing us together.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt in my mind. And then, yeah, I got his Instagram, and, I think I might have like seen him play. I remember hearing that name, TJ Malone, before I even met him. It's just way deep in the files of my head. And then I think the next week we started playing wall ball, and we were just, he was just talking to me about his hip surgery, about, like life, and, his recovery. And, he's just like, I haven't played lacrosse in like a year and a half. Like, this is the first time I'm playing with you after like X amount of like months and year and a half. I don't know exactly how long it was, but it was a while because of his hip surgery. And, I was just really grateful, just to pass around, because, there's not too many lacrosse players in New York City, especially not, stumbling across one and knowing that,
Right.
that you would meet. And so, yeah. And then eventually he said, yeah, I really want to grab a piece. And I was like, I'd love that, like, just let me know what speaks out to you, or if anything like catches your eye, whatever, just let me know. And so the next week, that's like 2 weeks now after we had met, he said, hey, I have some friends from Harvard, from Penn State. I don't know where else, but, he had a crew of lacrosse players like with him. And I guess he was talking me up about like my art to them. And I was like, yeah, just come by, they might want to buy a piece. I didn't really think too much of it. And I had the massive Paul Rabel piece that I had, like the real big one that I was telling you guys about.
Yep.
And that was there. It was at my girlfriend's apartment at the time. She lived in the Upper East Side. And, I had some art there. I didn't have my whole stack, I kind of I was like, okay, let me decorate your place. Let me put some here and here, so. And then, yeah, they came by. I think we had a wall ball session first, and we were just recording and, trying to make it. It was a real creative time. You kind of just like, how many balls can you hit in wall ball at the same time? I think he did like 2. So he's just like playing the wall ball and, 2 coming back at you, and then target practice, all these things. And we come back to my girlfriend's apartment, and we just start talking and just taking photos. And he's like, one of the face-off guys, Hudson is his name. And he's like, oh, I really love this piece. And I was like, yeah, like, he's like, how much? I was like, no way. I was like, that'd be crazy if he got this. I gave him a solid deal. And he's like, okay, cool, let's do it. And I was like, this is like awesome. Like, this is so cool. Like, it was a beautiful feeling. It was a little bit hard parting with that piece, but I knew that I was going to a good home. I loved the way that it came about. I loved the way that me and TJ met, the way all of it unfolded seemed very natural. And it just was like, yeah, you can do that. And then TJ saw the piece, which you guys saw on the back. And it was very similar to the piece that Hudson has, very anatomical. So he eventually got that piece. And I just think it's just perfect.
Hey, I went back before we talked today and watched it again just to take a look more at that piece. And it's really cool. And the thing I liked about it, like you said, the way it speaks to TJ and to you and your relationship. I think on paper, if I saw you two walking down the street, right, I would like, they're two opposites, but just hearing you talk and hearing TJ talk, it's like, I totally get what connected you two, just the way you both have this emotional understanding of the world and what's going on. It's pretty special.
Thank you. And it's cool that you can hear both sides. And
yeah, absolutely.
So as you have all these aspects of your life, Matt and I do like to touch on, have you had any mentors? I mean, you're helping kids in all these different aspects. Did you have anybody who helped you along the way with art, with sports, all those things?
I had a wrestling coach, and he was just absolutely brutal. His name was Billy, and if you've ever got any slightest bit of trouble, he would exploit that and just be like, "Okay, you're wrestling with me today." What happened to me is you couldn't stop running around the school, and we would go through laps, and people would be vomiting, after these things and just begging to stop. We would continue going, continue going. And he says, if you walk or you stop, like, you're gonna get punished. And one day I was walking, and he pulled me out. He says, okay, you have to carry this medicine ball. I don't know, it's maybe like 30 pounds or something. And you're gonna go up and down these stairs, and you're going to like move it, and I'm gonna watch you the whole time. So I think for about an hour and 30 minutes, I was just holding this heavy medicine ball, like going up the stairs. And I mean, like, going up the stairs and back down, up the stairs and back down, up the stairs. And it was just brutal. And that just really spoke to me. It's like, wow, I can do this. Like, why did I stop Why did I stop running? Or, like, I wanted to kind of wrestle with him again so that I can have the feeling of just being humbled a little bit. But that was Billy.
So do you hope to have your own studio someday? Like, how does that work?
I just would see art as like how I feel. Even sometimes now I kind of struggle with that. I mean, I don't believe it's a struggle, because it's not. It's a beautiful thing when someone buys your work, and it's a great feeling. But there's an aspect where it's just like, okay, like, do you want to or do you not want to? And I was just kind of ebbing and flowing. And then that's where I found tattooing, where I'm like, okay, like, this is a legitimate business. I don't have to just, source. I don't have to just do outreach. I don't have to do emails, marketing, promoting, all this stuff, paid advertisements. Like, these people just kind of come in, they like your work, they get it done. Simple as that. And I'm like, this is a great deal. You get 50% commission, you make a couple hundred every single day. It's like, I don't have to do, I just show up and then I leave, show up and then I leave, So that's where I kind of found myself, because I like just the artwork aspect. I've been getting a lot better with, taking videos of my work, but if I'm being for real, I don't like to get distracted, because then you're in the flow state and it's just like, okay, let me record this. It's not,
right.
Yeah. So we've kept you on for a while, and it's been awesome, but we love to finish with some general questions if we can. If you were going to have a dinner and you got to invite 4 people, and they can be historical, fictional, real, dead, alive, who would be your 4 people?
I think I would say Socrates.
Okay.
Admiral Byrd.
Tell me about Admiral Byrd.
Admiral Byrd, he is admiral at the 1946, 47 around. He was doing expeditions in Antarctica, and he was the first person to fly over the South Pole. And when he flew over the Antarctica, he saw that there was an ice wall. And what he saw and what he found going over that land was so controversial that he was like, his diaries were just like kept shut. Like, he said his biggest mistake was telling, the government.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah.
I guess that's where I want to know what was behind that. I saw.
Okay.
Socrates. I mean, we talked about that. Shoot, dead or alive. I want to say, who else? Probably, I want to say Dan Gable, but I've kind of seen so much of his talking, I kind of would know how it's like.
Yeah.
But
so you want to say Taylor Swift? I can feel it.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
That's the figure skater, right?
Yeah. So this brings up another question, but you seem, how do you say this? Like, you're very interested in like the mysteries or the conspiracy theories. Like, would you say that that's spot on?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd like to question everything, and
yeah.
That's being an artist, right?
Well,
Yeah,
there's so much mystery about Antarctica. That's what I think is, there's the whole thing about where there's maps that show Antarctica long before Antarctica was discovered, things like that are so fascinating.
yeah. I mean, it's true with everything. You kind of just when you uncover something, it's like how did this get here?
Do you
But
have a favorite book or movie or podcast or anything?
Or podcaster.
Not podcast, but
I really like Joe Rogan. I
okay.
like the anything with kind of like the Antarctica stuff. I kind of just peer into that. There's also this guy named Forbidden Knowledge, like four,
Uh-huh.
like the number four, and then Bidden Knowledge. I believe that's his Instagram handle, and I think his name is, I forget his name, but you should check him out. And he talks a lot about like, you know, forbidden knowledge and ancient stuff that was here. And I try not to peer too much into that. I believe that if, like, for instance, like there's people that are fascinated with space and aliens and all this stuff, and Saturn looks this way, but I'm like, I'll never be there in my life, so I'm just going to worry about what I'm here doing on Earth.
I like that.
So the fantasies is like, just put it out like way in the corner. If you have some time, okay, but I try not to let it become my whole personality. But if people talk about it, like I'm there, I'm talking about it. Yeah, heck yeah.
So you are a fascinating guy. So if our listeners want to find your artwork and want to check you out and learn more about you, where do they go?
Yeah, so my Instagram is my name, KleverXJR. So Klever X Jr.
Okay.
Excellent. We'll post that up there, and people can follow you and check you out and check out the artwork, which is pretty amazing. I spent a lot of time on there today.
Yeah, definitely.
Check it out.
I might have to
very cool.
Might have to post a few more things. I've been a little bit dormant with that. I have a lot of content that I want to put out. But like I said before, it's when it comes, I'm
You're ready.
Like when the feeling comes, it's like, oh, like I told you before, like the Paul Rabel piece I made like a year ago, and then I posted it.
Excellent. Well, I'm
cool.
sorry I had technological issues, but I appreciate your time, and I can't wait to listen to this podcast and hear everything I missed.
Honestly, I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, this is going to be great for you to edit it, because this was a great podcast, and now you're going to be hearing it for the first time when you edit.
I can't wait.
And I didn't have to worry about cutting you off. Klever didn't have to worry about cutting you off because you weren't even there.
I'm pretty sure you did it on purpose. Klever, thanks so much, and we'll be talking to you soon.